Hello and welcome to our wonderful guest, my friend and Logie winning TV producer, Jodi Boylan. Welcome, Jodi.
Hello, hello.
So I feel like the entire time I've known you, you've worked project to project. Have you ever had a full-time job?
Yes, way back when I first started in television, I did have a full-time job for about 5 years. But then since I moved to London in the early 2002, it was a freelance world over there. So I had to adapt, and I worked project to project ever since. But of late, I've worked consistently for one production company, which I'm very lucky for. But you're right in saying that I do work project to project, and that's my MO.
And I guess having done both, what is the biggest differences for full-time work compared to project work that you find?
I think the biggest difference is if you're looking from the outset, you might be thinking security, what's my kind of security look like? I think that would be the biggest concern that people have, and that's probably the biggest difference. But, I would say my answer to that would be that there's no security really in your workplace and in your job. And I think, we've seen that more recently, and that we should be all looking to be flexible and adaptable in our professional life.
Yeah, fantastic. I totally agree. Times have changed, haven't they? So I guess I'm coming from an industry where that isn't the norm. The sports industry tends to be very full-time based. So I guess what would you say to an organisation that may be looking or needing to change to a bit more of a project-based workforce? Because you have also made teams and been the employer in that situation as well.
I think there's a huge advantage for an employer to change your business structure and employ people on a project-to-project basis. And that is that you have the benefit of being able to hire different people with different skills depending on the project. And I think that brings more value to the business to have that opportunity and bring people in when it's specific to the needs, rather than having someone who might have strengths in one area but might not necessarily in another area, and have them on a full-time basis and them kind of not being able to bring what you need in that kind of area or to deliver on that certain project. So I think there's a huge advantage for going like freelance and employing people on a freelance basis on a project-to-project basis. And I think there's a huge advantage for employees as well. And because I look at it every time that I work for a new production company or a new network, that I'm upskilling, because I am learning a new process, meeting new people, I'm networking, learning a new genre or a new style. So I think there's a win-win for both sides.
Yeah, that's really important, because I think there's probably a lot of people in sport that have been in an organisation for a very, very long time. And so they've been thrown off the deep end, they need to think about how they do things differently. So I guess what would you say to those that are having to embrace something new?
I think that there's a danger if you stay in one organisation for a very long time, that you kind of get indoctrinated into that organisation, and you become kind of like a one-trick pony. And I think that's very dangerous in this world and in this global market. And I think it's better to be very flexible and adaptable. And I think we've seen that in the last kind of 6 months with COVID, that we've all had to adapt. And I think that's really important moving forward. And so I would say that, don't get stuck, don't stay in the same place if you want to secure longevity in your career.
Very, very sound advice, I think, from an industry that's done it a while. And is that the case with the television industry? Is, I guess, project-based working looked down upon or frowned upon, or is it considered the norm?
It's absolutely considered the norm in our industry. If you have worked at a network, and we've seen in the last, especially I keep talking about the last 6 months, but even the last few weeks, there's been a huge amount of redundancies at all the major networks, and it's because they can't keep it viable. It's not viable to have people on the books as such, just because, they need to be able to bring people on a project basis when it's suited to the project. And that's much more productive for the business, for the company, and obviously for the output as well, and for the shareholders.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, I like your approach. It's definitely a win-win for both sides, and I think that's what we want to encourage people to view it as, and not be scared. Sort of embrace the new norm, which we would put it. So, have you got any, I guess, final words of encouragement to the sports industry that might be staring down the barrel of a very different way of working?
Look, I think, it can be scary to enter into a project to project basis work, or, what we call freelance. So definitely plan for it, look ahead, and know that that's going to be your next job for the next 6 months. I definitely am always looking forward, not backwards, and think, okay, well, after this, what is the next job? And, and where will I be? It's exciting to be able to change projects. It's really exciting. You learn lots of new things. It keeps you really invigorated when you're meeting new people and you're networking about and enthusiastic and passionate about your job, especially in a creative industry. That's really important, is to keep that passion alive. And there's nothing like kind of changing your workplace, your work colleagues, and obviously the content or the genre or whatever you're producing, to keep that passion up. And then plan ahead. If you know that that's going to be a project for 6 months, then plan your holiday, get that in and lock it in, and just keep looking forward, and don't be scared. Take the leap.
I love it. And that I think you're full of energy. And I think that's a wonderful, just seeing the energy that you talk about your industry is something that we should all embrace. So that's what we're hoping to create at the Sports Huddle. And we thank you very much for the little insight into the television industry. Thanks, Jod.
No worries. Good luck.